Good evening, Southwest Florida. Welcome to the first Women's March Fort Myers monthly community meeting of 2026. I'm Connie Bennett Martin, and on behalf of the leadership team of Women's March Fort Myers, I want to thank you for joining us and supporting the movement. This year, we're launching a brand new series of monthly conversations with one goal: to make sure voices, particularly women's voices in our community, are heard, uplifted, and empowered. You're going to hear real stories, learn ways to take action locally, and meet the people that are shaping the future of Southwest Florida. So our theme for 2026 is your trusted friend and voice in the community. And that means you can count on us for truthful information, meaningful conversations, and practical steps to make an impact right here in Southwest Florida. So Women's March Fort Myers, it's a local chapter of a national movement that believes in justice, equality, democracy, and community. Locally, we focus on voter empowerment, human rights, reproductive freedom, community safety, climate and environmental justice, and amplifying marginalized voices. And our monthly meetings are designed to bring us together, to share knowledge, and to give us all a direct line to the experts, the organizers, and the change makers. So here's a quick look at what 2026 holds. Next month, we're going to have Know Your Rights, responding safely to ICE actions. March will be petitions, ballots, and power, and how direct democracy really works. April, critical thinking in the age of misinformation, tools for staying truthful. And May, rising voices, women leading change right here in our communities. We have so many more topics to share with you as well. And we're going to be meeting right here on Facebook and YouTube. And we're going to have some in-person meetings on the second Tuesday of each month. And tonight we're going to kick off with a really important topic. You got to meet the movement, building power through local partnerships. So today I am really thrilled to welcome some local leaders from local organizations that are shaping democracy and equality here in Southwest Florida. We have Sandy Frank with League of Women Voters, Jim Nathan with Floridians for Democracy, Kathy Mayo with National Organization for Women, Lee County Chapter, and me, your host, Connie Bennett Martin with Women's March Fort Myers. And you're going to get to hear who they are, what they do, and how you can get involved right alongside them. So I'm going to just take a moment and ask each of you to introduce yourself, your organization, share your mission. Sandy, let's start with you in the League of Women Voters.
Good evening. I'm happy to be part of this Women's March community conversation. I'm very excited about the opportunity to be here. I am Sandy Frank, president of the League of Women Voters of Lee County. The League of Women Voters' mission is to empower voters and defend democracy. We promote political responsibility through informed and active participation in government and act on selected government issues after study and member consensus on positions. The League is nonpartisan. We do not support or oppose political parties or candidates, and we are fully committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion in principle and in practice. League actions, advocacy, and educational initiatives are based on and consistent with League principles, positions, policies, and our legislative plan that are developed over time. Some of our issues go back to our inception in 1920 or the inception of the Lee County League in 1949. Our program in Lee County addresses selected Lee County, Florida, and U.S. governmental issues, as long as we have member understanding, agreement, and consideration of the timing, need, and potential effectiveness of our actions. In Lee County, we're focusing on voting, registering voters, making sure people are engaged and ready to vote, defending democracy, and looking at the issues of affordable housing, healthcare, climate, environment, and natural resources, economic and social justice, and education. We do have educational meetings on a monthly basis and have other educational opportunities for the public. And I'm looking forward to working with all of the other speakers today. Thank you.
Sandy, that's some great information. Thank you. Jim, could you share with us, perhaps you and Rose, share with us a little bit about Floridians for Democracy?
Sure. With me this evening, I happen to be the one male that you invited for this women's discussion. Uh, but with me this evening, I have Rose Gatens. Rose is also with Floridians for Democracy, and she heads up our action committee to collaborate with various organizations throughout the state and especially in Southwest Florida, and to be supportive of the various initiatives. We recognized some years ago that if your interest was women's rights or reproductive rights or the environment, or education, healthcare, whatever it might be. If we lose democracy, everything's gone. And so we formed, we're in our just beginning our fourth year for Floridians for Democracy. We have both a 501c3 and a C4. The C3 is involved with education, the C4 on action. And our focus is really to be supportive of other organizations, but also provide some great educational programs. But we're heavily focused on the rule of law and the weakening of it. We're heavily focused on what we see right now as horrendous cruelty that is going on in Florida and around the nation. Certainly the detention centers and the way people are being arrested, and especially this is not the arrests of the worst of the worst. We're also opposed to this anti-vax situation. We believe that we do believe in individual rights, but when individual rights are basically destroying the health and well-being of a community, which is what many of us that are my age know from our childhood, the scare and the concerns of polio and many of the issues now like measles that are supported by vaccines. We cannot go back to that era. We are also targeted on many of the state issues that are going on. One of our board members, Bob Schaefer, is a political analyst, and he provides talking points and support education systems of what's going on in Tallahassee for us. Another board member is Howard Simon, who was over 40 years involved with ACLUs, both in Michigan and Florida, and very, very active in his editorial writing and speaking out on major issues. We are trying to provide as best we can, like many of you, one-click advocacy with talking points on important issues. And we'll be supporting, even in March, a state organization based out of Venice, but Social Justice Alliance of Florida. And they're doing a program called Save Democracy for All. Last year, they did the Right to Read program. But what we want to do is help them take it on a statewide basis. And the same thing goes with our work with the Sanibel League of Women Voters that have three wonderful programs coming up. One on immigration and the current status of that. One on Trump 2.0 and what's happened over the last year and where the heck might Trump 2.0 year two go. And a third one on the freedom of the press. So their programs are based on Sanibel, but we'll be also taking them and developing statewide programs with the information and then doing updates on what's happening with the Florida legislature. So a lot of issues, but really trying to stay true to the things that are destroying democracy, like the efforts at redistricting to make the gerrymandering even worse in the state of Florida. Because again, if we lose democracy, all these important social issues that many of us have a lot of passion and energy. When I retired from Lee Health, my focus was on racial justice, and it became pretty obvious that with the destruction of DEI and critical race theory and all these things going on so rapidly, that any of the efforts we were trying to do there were lost, and the same for any of the rest of us that have a lot of passion. I'd like Rose to just say a couple words on her role in helping to support organizations that are out there. We are not trying to suddenly tell everybody that we're experts on voting rights or that we're experts on protests or whatever. But Rose has a great background, including one she may not have mentioned, but she is the past director for Florida Atlantic for the Holocaust Museum and is an expert on Holocaust, which obviously in many ways we are beginning to relive the 1930s in America.
Well, everybody, I am really delighted to be with you all, and I consider it a great honor to be here with Jim. One of the things that I think is really important about what we do with education in FFDI is that we try to find ways to directly connect the education programs with action. So one of the things that our advocacy committee does with every program, education program, is to publish a list, sometimes long, sometimes short, of actions that can be taken right now with respect to the issue that was discussed in the education program the night or 2 nights before. And we've been finding that for the people who are part of our network, that has been extremely helpful, not just in terms of doing something, but the psychological sense of being able to do something and not scratching your head and thinking, well, what can I do? Or what can I do? Or is there anything to do? So I've been really lucky to be with a group of thoughtful, creative, and intelligent folks who think about the concrete ways in which ordinary people can take direct action. Another thing that the Advocacy Committee does is to cooperate with many of the other groups in the area who have been planning, sponsoring, and organizing the protest actions that have been out on the streets since last April. That group of people and organizations now has a name, the Southwest Florida Coalition for Democracy. Kathy MAYO, I met you the other day at one of our events. And one of the things that's really exciting about that is knowing that there are people in different places in the county and in the state who are doing things that we're like-minded, but we're not all doing the same thing. And that means that more people are being exposed to a wider range of ideas and actions. The reason I think that's important, and it's also part of FFD's mission, is the nonpartisan aspect of fighting for democracy. This is something we all own and we all have to do, and we all must do. So the more opportunities we have to interact with people across the spectrum, better off we all are. So one of our intentions, and we intently do this, is to link up with other organizations and who are doing other things, but in a like-minded way. I noticed that we don't have anybody from the Hispanic or African American community in this program, but it's part of FFD's goal and action to take part in the work of Equal Ground and the Friendship Baptist Church Social Justice Committee. And I felt pretty good last weekend when we had the rally for Renee Good that on Palm Beach Boulevard, that so many of the Hispanic residents of the area came out and supported us, supporting them, bringing us water and ice, offering to bring us food, talking about how important it was to feel supported by people like us who have more freedom to open our mouths and be present and say something and do something. So when I think about what FFD has been doing and will be doing, it is taking the education dimension of the Floridians for Democracy Institute and actually putting it into practice.
Really wonderful. So that was amazing, some amazing advocacy, and I really appreciate you sharing. Kathy, will you tell us just a little bit more about the National Organization for Women, Lee County Chapter, or Lee County Now?
Absolutely. I'm Kathy Mayo. I'm a retired librarian. I'm When you hear this, I will be the past president of our local chapter, and I've been involved in with now since the 70s. So this is not new, but we're the grassroots arm of the women's movement. We're the people who have put on giant protests all over the country, mainly in Washington, D.C. originally. But we work, as Rose said, with a lot of different organizations locally, including Women's March and Floridians for Democracy and League of Women Voters to get the word out, um, to get movement. We realized a long time ago that the only way to make a difference is to partner up because there aren't enough of us in any one organization to make the sustained, broad impact that we want to have. And this has been great because each of us comes with different knowledge and different expertise. And we certainly saw that out on the streets, but we've all come from a different place. In 1966, when NOW was formed, our purpose has pretty much been the same. Take action through intersectional grassroots activism to promote feminist ideals, lead societal change, eliminate discrimination, and achieve and protect the equal rights of all women and girls to all aspects of social, political, and economic life. And this is something we're still trying to do today, but with a specific focus on the current federal administration and state administrations that have taken such amazing steps to change the whole definition of democracy. It's just hard to believe that all of this could have happened so quickly, and yet, and here we are. Locally, our big focus, well, last year we were working extremely hard to try and get Amendment 4 passed to give people access to full access to abortion rights and everything that had to do with reproduction. And that didn't make it. Our 57% of voters' support was not enough. But then we suddenly had a new administration that we seemed to share very few values with them in terms of what our vision of American democracy was. So our focus locally has been on trying to produce every month at least one or two opportunities for people to speak up, speak out, either march or show up with signs or just visibly be in the community to let the rest of the community know we're not falling for this. And that's been a sort of a gut-wrenching experience to do for a whole year. And thankfully, we had partners to do it with. We've been collecting, food and personal hygiene products and all kinds of things every Saturday. And at every event we hold, we are collecting donations. And this makes a difference because food pantries are just being swamped with need. So we're trying to help fill some of that. Our personal projects for our chapter, one is we started the Repro Access Coalition, which is providing period products and condoms, pregnancy tests, um, all kinds of expensive, for most women and girls, products that they can use for free. So that is a biggie. And we were at FSW yesterday for a health fair to share a lot of that with the kids that were there. And that and producing rallies and what have you are two of our most important projects for this year. But we also continue our scholarship effort. We started the Ellen Peterson Award a number of years ago for social justice and environmental activism. And it gives out awards to graduating senior girls or people who are consider themselves girls to use towards the next step in their life, whether it be a technical school or college or university. And that's been another exciting thing that we did in partnership with the Appalachian Center, which was started by Ellen Peterson. So life keeps going in a circle, and we keep trying to keep up with it.
Absolutely. There are so many amazing things in our community, and we have so many great opportunities to continue partnering and finding new connections. I know the rallies are absolutely amazing. One of the last ones that I was at on the intersection of Daniels and 41, and there was a lady who has never been to one, not affiliated with any group. She stopped, she came back around, parked, and came out, and she went, I found people that think like I do. And she's like, she had never been to one before. And she was, I mean, just in tears because it felt so powerful to be around other like-minded people. For a little, I gave her one of my signs. For a while, she held my hand because she was nervous. And she just said, wow, I live in such a red community. I'm afraid to even tell my neighbors that I don't think like them. And, and I'm like, I cannot imagine having that kind of fear to speak out. And for every person that's standing on those corners or taking advocacy and doing something, there's a dozen more that maybe are sheltered or maybe not comfortable coming out or just don't feel empowered or safe to do so. And so, somebody asked me once about why are there so many old white ladies out there on the street corners? And I'm like, because we don't have as much to lose anymore. We're not as worried about our job. We're not worried about what the community thinks of us. You hit a certain point. That's why it's hard to bring in some of the younger people because, they don't want to be canceled at their job for having an opinion. And I think this is what all of us are trying to do is making sure that everybody is empowered to have their own rights and their rights for being just who they are. So this right here is going to be just a little short roundtable discussion. Feel free to and comfortable to jump in when you want to share after the first person speaks. But Jim, I'd like to start with you. What are some of the biggest issues that you're watching in Florida for 2026?
Well, I think I shared some before, but I'll reinforce this whole issue of cruelty, the detention centers, the horrendous treatment of not only American citizens, but visitors that are here, and just the inhumanity that comes with it is a major issue and concern for us. I also personally believe that the more visible we make that, as cruel and terrible as it is, that is sort of like the 1960s TV awareness of the brutality from the bus strikes and the Edmund Pettus Bridge, et cetera, or the brutality of Vietnam. And sadly, we need to expose that as much as possible. So that's a major issue. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, the vaccines are a big issue. The concern about the redistricting and a continued attack on voting rights in this state that is already so massively gerrymandered that it's hard to visualize that it can be more gerrymandered. But I guess statistically, there's a chance if you've got 5 seats in the U.S. House and they want to get it down to 2 or 0, they're going to work hard at that. But that's just really terrible. We also, I guess the other big thing that I didn't mention before, we do postcarding, and we've got pretty good at postcarding to the point of having talking points available at our postcarding events. As you mentioned, Connie, when you're interacting with people on the streets, it's nice. For the lady you were talking about, where she saw somebody that said, "Gee, these are people that I can relate to." So there's a camaraderie that comes from it while also doing important work. But we help with the talking points. We're also doing thank you cards to people like judges that have put themselves and their families at risk at the national level for speaking out. These are the kinds of things that I think are so important, but also what you're doing here, being able to be with Sandy Frank, who I've known for a long time, who's always been very active, and Kathy Mayo, who puts herself out in front of anybody and everything with full bravery. As for some of us that have sort of come lately to the scene, this isn't about us. This is about our grandchildren and their futures and the viability of this nation and our ability to advocate on so many important levels where we were incrementally, slowly, hard-earned freedoms that are just being swept away so fast. And we've got to stop that before we can get back to negotiating for the important individual areas that we have. So the more we collaborate, the more what you're trying to do here, the more we share and grow and support each other's initiatives, use each other's social media, find out when various events are, advertise and market those events to the best of our ability. We're at least flapping the wings of the butterflies, trying to do some good.
Wonderful. Kathy, Rose, Sandy, do any of you have anything else?
I'd like to
you
jump
on
in if I can.
Okay.
Okay, and I agree with everything that Jim said and all the issues that we're facing and the ways that we fix the situation include collaboration and advocating, demonstrating, speaking out. Those are all important, but we got here because of who was elected and how they were elected. So we need to vote. We need to make sure that everyone is registered to vote, that they understand the issues, that they understand who's representing them, who's not going to represent them, and maybe we can turn this around. So the issues that the league are most concerned about right now, and the legislature started meeting this week, and it'll be meeting for 2 weeks, plus the special session that we already know about. One of the major issues is mid-decade redistricting. 20 of 28 elected congresspeople in Florida are already of one party, and there's discussion, which probably will turn into reality, of redistricting in Florida. The House convened a committee in the fall, and last week the governor proclaimed a special session on redistricting in April, the end of April, which means that even the qualifying periods are now pushed back until June for the Congress, whether there is redistricting or not. Partisan gerrymandering is illegal under the Florida Constitution. Section 20 says, in establishing congressional district boundaries, no apportionment plan or individual district shall be drawn with the intent to favor or disfavor a political party or an incumbent. When you listen to the reasons why the redistricting is happening, it seems to many of us that this is a violation of that constitutional right in Florida. So after redistricting, there will probably be challenges to the redistricting, but that may or may not affect the next election. So the other thing we are concerned about, if there is redistricting, that it be done in compliance with the Fair District Standards in a transparent and public process. So whether those will happen or not, or what that means, it still is an issue for all of us, because it will change. If there is redistricting, it is likely that it will change our congressional makeup. And a couple resources I'd like to mention. There is a website called nopartisanmaps.org, and it has a lot of resources and steps for action, including how to reach your legislators to tell them your opinions on redistricting. And the League of Women Voters website in Lee County has resources on redistricting, not so much for direct action, but to give background, and that is lwvlee.org. The other area of concern for the League in this legislative session relates again to elections and voting issues. It looks like there will be efforts to require in-person documentation of citizenship for voting, which will be impossible for many individuals to meet, either inability to find or pay for the documents that they need to be eligible to vote. And there's also probably proposed changes to vote by mail to make that more difficult. So the League is plans to fight against these issues, but we all need to do that. If the vote by mail is reduced, access to voting will be reduced for many people. In-person voting may be influenced with changes that require identification, the types of identification that voters can use for in-person and early voting. So again, that could impact whether even registered voters are able to vote if they can't prove their citizenship at that time. We're also working towards restoration of rights for returning citizens, which has been very difficult in the state of Florida because of the requirements to prove that they have the right to have their rights restored, and there's no good database on that. So we're working on that to hopefully make it easier for returning citizens to have their rights restored. In Lee County, in the fall, there's going to be a referendum on single-member districts for the Board of County Commissioners. This is something that the League has supported for many years. It has been supported by the Lee County Legislative Delegation, 6-1. It was supported by them and by the Florida Legislature. What they are supporting is that citizens in Lee County can make the decision whether they want to keep the status quo with county commissioners elected at large in the whole large county that we have, or whether it will be changed to single-member districts where the county commissioners are elected by the voters in their district. So this is an issue that can really make a difference in Lee County, can bring more representation to communities around the county, and I think will make a difference for the quality of leadership in Lee County at the Board of County Commissioners level. So that's something that we really want to educate and advocate for. We do keep those functions separate, but it's kind of hard on single-member districts to keep a balance on the educational part. So I want to reiterate what's already been said. We need to collaborate and work together. And I think that as we do that and continue to build on our collaborations, we can make a difference in Lee County. And I think we have till the next election to really try to make that happen.
A bunch was covered. Kathy, do you have anything else to add?
I'm just amazed collectively what we're all trying to do. It's pretty amazing that we share a similar vision, but different ways to get at it. I didn't realize initially how important voting was. When I turned 21 and, registered as a Democrat, and it was a big deal. But that's when Florida Democrats were very different. My very Republican parents were also Democrats. It's interesting, but my parents would be astounded. As conservative as they were, they would be so upset at what is happening today. So part of what I'm doing and as an individual is for them. I'm a 6th-generation Floridian, and I care deeply about this state. I don't want to have to move away like some people have decided to do. So I think it's like putting a stake in the ground and saying, no, you can't get rid of me. I'm here.
Yeah.
Well, we want to keep you. So how about I start the next question then with you? So what are one or two of the local efforts that Lee County now is working on that community members need to know about? Maybe something that hasn't been covered.
Wow, I've already mentioned some of them. We're trying to coordinate in a way that um, doesn't stake ownership in a specific topic. We want to be there to support whichever group and to attend meetings and activities sponsored by other groups. And I think that's sort of important, an important way to and the three things that we're mainly doing right now are still we're celebrating women throughout the year, International Women's Day, Equal Pay Days. We're trying to draw attention to how little women are making and how much more longer they have to work to earn the same amount as a man in the same job. That has not changed. And I think we continue to need to draw this to the attention of people. We also need to somehow make them realize that we are not paid protesters. I find that just a remarkable belief that we're all getting paid for what we're doing. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Yep.
We'd have better signs if we did.
Yeah, sure we would.
We would. We're all dipping into our pockets just a little bit here and there, sometimes a lot of bit, but you know what? It's what's important. So, Sandy, Jem, or Rose, do you have anything else you want to add of actions that we want to share with the community?
Well, I would like to say a couple of things. I was in a conversation today in which a woman is interested in trying to figure out ways of bringing the people in her community together to learn how to talk with each other in a way that they can learn to agree to disagree. And I think one of the things that we often forget is that conflict resolution skills are essential to these kinds of conversations. And most of us have little or no experience or training in doing that. Indivisible has set up a number of online opportunities to learn the principles of nonviolent conversation. And I think that in the long run is going to be beneficial to helping all of us reach our neighbors. Learning how to de-escalate that conversation where somebody says, "You think that? Oh my God," and then it just falls apart from that point onward. That it's a skill to know how to talk to somebody that you disagree with or who disagrees with you. And so one program area that I think maybe all of us should think about is what can we do to prepare people who care about these issues to learn how to talk with other people using a conflict resolution paradigm. Um,
Got to do
and
more listening, for instance.
that too. But there are techniques that you can use to make that happen. And I just wanted to put that back out on the table. And then the whole other thing about de-escalation and safety and some of the things that people are encountering with ICE, with law enforcement, whether it's at a rally or a protest or in the parking lot at a shopping center. Um, one of the things that I think happened in Minneapolis was people weren't expecting to be treated the way treated so harshly, and it brought out defensiveness automatically without the de-escalation skills. And that's something we need to take into account because if you continue to argue that groups like ours are violent, that our intention is to violently disrupt, then we lose that middle ground of people who might otherwise want to join with us and agree with our message. So how to act nonviolently um, is an issue that I think we all need to be more intentional about.
I want to jump in for a minute on that. I agree with what Rose is saying and the need for facilitators for conflict resolution. As you were speaking, Rose, I didn't realize that Indivisible was training facilitators. The League of Women Voters is as well. And there are a number of other organizations. Maybe one of the things we can do collectively is to
Mm-hmm.
figure out, who can do that in Lee County
Yes.
and then Floridians, I know, is statewide, but we could, maybe make that happen more effectively if we share those resources and the
Mm-hmm.
people who need them and work together in that way.
That's a great
Um,
idea.
we are going to be working toward formalizing partnerships for voter engagement. And I'm saying it that way because we, in our heads, think that we have a lot of allies and partners and people who are working with us. And maybe they think so as well. But I think that there's ways that we can strengthen those relationships if we formalize them and talk about the various things that each of us can do. Not everyone can do everything, but if we
Mm-hmm.
get the word out and we too work with some churches and religious organizations, but there are many, many that we're not reaching. There might be a way to do that. Some of the service and community organizations can help to register voters in a nonpartisan way. Some of the advocacy groups, like those of you today, we can also work together to register voters and help them to get through the process, which I think is probably going to be more difficult in the future rather than easy. So we need to make sure that everyone is prepared for that, and we can work in that way. And then the league continues to work on many Lee County issues, like I mentioned earlier, affordable housing, how the county is spending all of the billions of dollars that they have received post Ian to help with affordable housing that is going in some cases to other issues, access to health care, environmental issues, economic and social justice, and public education, which is being eroded as we speak by the
Mm-hmm.
voucher system and the taxation system. So we're trying to find ways to educate and advocate on that in Lee County.
And I love that, even just in this meeting came up with an idea of, training, getting the training de-escalation, narrowed down and having, the experts handle it. And I know whenever we go to rallies, we print out pages that tell people, don't interact when you have the person there. Make sure you're, recording, make sure
Mm-hmm.
you're staying safe, stay in a buddy, don't
Mm-hmm.
step out, don't step off the curb. All sorts of things like that. And yeah, I think having some people with real de-escalation training just adds to what we're doing. But Sandy, since you were sharing so much in light of our current political climate, what gives you and the League of Women Voters hope and strength to keep carrying on?
Number one, we don't have a choice. We have to make a difference. And what really gives me hope is talking to others who are trying to do the same thing and finding some common ground and working together respectfully, understanding we may have different ways of getting to where we want to go, but all of those ways are important. And we need to be respectful of each other's strategies, understanding how they all fit together. Simplistically, when you have a demonstration or a rally that calls attention to an issue, you still have to hammer out the specifics of what the law might be and how it's implemented. So there's many things that can work together. None of them are more or less important, but we need to shift, and I think we're starting to shift with more people understanding where we are and what we need to do and not really knowing how to get there. But I think working together with all of our collective history and forward thinking that we can make a difference, and that does give me help. So by sharing with each other, networking, building coalitions, and always being cooperative and mutually respectful, I think that gives me a lot of hope that we can do that and we should do that and we have to do that. None of us want to see the future that we see coming. We have to find a way to turn it around.
No, and I think a lot of us have felt at some point or another, we have to admit we felt very deflated, defeated, just crushed with some of the things going on. And for me personally, that's one of the things that has given me that strength to carry on, because I'm like, no, this is not going to get the best of me, of my friends, of my community. This isn't going to get the best of my next generation. And so Jim, Rose, Kathy, any of y'all have anything to add to that?
Well, by training and profession, I'm an historian. So I tend to think about things from a wide perspective. And I think one of the things that we often forget is that even though a lot of the actions that we're taking don't seem to have immediate results, the fact of the matter is that if we weren't doing them, then any hope for any future in which a democratic ideals would still be alive would be gone. So there is a connection between resistance and survival. And we're in a survival mode right now. And survival feels awful. But when I think about Jews who were in the concentration camps and survived uh, through resistance and resisted through survival to be able to tell their stories. Most survivors of all these different genocides have that sensibility. And I think we need to have that sensibility too about what we're doing. The people in the civil rights movement were not just hatched one day. That's 100 years of struggling uh, when it looked absolutely hopeless. But to keep the hope alive, it sounds so cliche now, but that's what the relationship between resistance and survival and the future is about. And I hope that as we talk with each other and people out and about that we come into contact with, that we can remember to talk about things like that, that it, it might be hopeless now, but what we're doing keeps hope alive.
Absolutely. That was beautifully put. Thank you. Anyone else want to share?
So I just wanted to bring this back to voting
Um,
because I think I still think that that is part of the answer and that we need to make sure that
mhm.
everyone is registered and prepared to vote, informed on the issues, and that they are using trusted resources that give them accurate information, and that they understand that they need to get out and vote to make a difference. And that's how, again, that's how we got where we are now, and that's where we can make a change. So, and while in the current situation, we need to make our voices heard with the elected officials, we need to observe and write and call and let them know individually and collectively what our concerns are. And even the right to know has been eroded, not even, but it is one of the things that has been eroded. It's very difficult to get information, and there's it's supposed legally you're entitled to it, but you can't always get access. So we need to continue that. And I think the league is a good source to get information on what's happening in Lee County, the state, and nationally. And through our websites, the League of Women Voters Lee County, the League of Women Voters Florida, and League of Women Voters US, anyone can sign up to get email alerts, action alerts, and sign up for the national campaign Unite and Rise, which is an effort to organize millions of people to be ready when it's time. So I think there's a lot we can do. And I urge everyone to get involved in any way you feel comfortable.
I think another thing that would be helpful, and I've seen a few of these, is the people who can't get out, who's who are frustrated because they're pretty much stuck at home or, have a fairly limited contact with the rest of the world. Just a list of the things they can certainly do from their own home,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's letters to the editor or calls and letters to the legislature, to Congress, to whichever person can make a difference.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be calling them out because they're not doing what you want, but it's also heaping praise on the folks who are brave enough to step out and perhaps put their head on the chopping block even.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that people can do. Um, and one of them is just keeping abreast of the issues.
Jim, since you started us out, let's turn our passions into action. So, can you tell me more about how everyday people, we need that take action type activity. So, how can everyday people get involved, whether it's tonight, this week, this month? Tell us how they can get more involved with you.
Yeah, thanks, Connie. I think in a way we've touched on a lot of those things just in this program. Um, it's easy to get depressed over the speed of the gerrymandering, the captured judiciary, intimidation of dissent, pitting neighbor against neighbor. This has been a multi-decades long effort to basically get to a unitary executive and dismantle the checks and balances that our founding fathers created for us. So it's easy to get depressed, but there's a lot of stuff that people can do from their home. And Rose mentioned earlier about our action agenda. We try to put in there, including Hear Our Voices, where there's simple ways of how to do a single click and how to communicate directly, just like the league does with so many individuals. We will arm them with messaging, suggested messaging, and the ease. If you've never made a phone call before and you're fearful to do it, it's really, really easy. And nobody bites you off because almost every time you're going to a voicemail anywhere. And it's similar to sending a postcard because the legislator never reads those postcards, but their staff does. And if they're seeing something on consistency with messaging, it may, not guarantee, but may play a role. But not trying is worse. We had a speaker last spring that I met early part of 2025, who is the founder of Lawyers Defending American Democracy. And in my first conversation with him, he said, "We are sleepwalking into autocracy." And I said, "That's the title of the program you need to do for us." So that's what we did. But that is what's happening. And as one of the national legal experts, Joyce Vance, reminds us, we shouldn't be waiting for a savior to do this. We have to educate ourselves. We have to inform others. We have to organize together. And so I think that's what this effort is. How do we, at any level, we can make a difference, sharing a story with a neighbor, engaging somebody that we know probably thinks differently than we do, but would be engaged around the issue of cruelty, that would be engaged around some button that they're seeing that is saying that this is just simply not right, and trying to open up their eyes, because it's not the choir, the people that are on this call, or the people that we see and work with every day. They're the choir that agree with us. But we've got to find the disenfranchised, the people that have buyer's remorse over the last election, that thought they were doing the right thing, but realized that maybe, just maybe, this isn't working. We're not getting what we asked for in terms of price reductions, and we're only getting this non-American kinds of things that we should all be embarrassed about. So the long-winded way of reinforcing, there's so much opportunity person to person, and we have the tools in our various organizations to assist with the messaging and to assist at any level. If somebody's never been to a protest before, to go and find out, as long as you stay peaceful, it can be a heck of a lot of fun, and you're doing good and you're meeting good people along the way. But you don't have to go, as Kathy said before, and Sandy has said, you don't have to go to a protest to make a difference. And I guess that's the basic, most important message here. There's lots of tools that we all have available for us. Reach out to any of us, and we will arm you with opportunities to do things where you don't have to get out. I'll close by this, though. Selfishly, on February the 7th from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, we're doing a postcarding event at Fine Mark Bank in their community room off the lobby. And we are well organized for it, and refreshments, etc. And anybody that would like to come, just email us, let us know you're coming, or in some cases, people just show up. But we need the hands and bodies there to help put together postcards, thank you notes to brave people, letters to the editor. We have sample letters to the editor of powerful messages. We just want to say thank you to people for doing that. And we want to say thank you to legislators, the few that are actually doing something we think is trying to be helpful, but also importantly, messaging to the people that don't want to hear from us, so they at least know there's somebody watching them. All these things can add up. There are no guarantees for success, but there is guarantee for failure, and that's doing nothing.
So first, I wanted to emphasize what Kathy mentioned about supporting people who are doing the right thing. I think many of us forget to do that, and I think they need that reinforcement. It's our responsibility to help them to do their job. So I thank you for mentioning that, Kathy. I'd also like to mention that the League's educational events are the first Saturday of every month, and our next meeting is February 7th from 9:30 to 11:30. The title is Local Voice, Local Choice, Choosing Commissioners by Single Member Districts. That will be at the East County Regional Library in Lehigh Acres. And that'll be our first kickoff of the issue leading up to the election, which, again, I want to emphasize is a very important issue for all Lee County citizens, all Lee County voters.
This was some really amazing information. I can't thank you all enough for coming and sharing all of it with us. I hope it inspires our community for more local partnerships, for participation. There's a lot of other great organizations in our community. So tonight, everyone got to hear just a little sampling, and I encourage everyone to get active. Find an organization, find two, find three, find organizations that closely align with your values and your vision, and most importantly, get involved. This was a lot of great information, and it really gives me hopes for a better tomorrow. We can accomplish some great things if we're just united and not divided. We can't simply sit back and watch from the sidelines. This is our time. This is the time for every patriot to get involved. We wouldn't be out there standing on corners and waving signs and filing petitions and writing our legislators if we didn't love this country. And I feel pretty comfortable when I hope I can speak for all of us when I say we love America. We love this amazing country. We're not proud of the current direction, but together we're going to make a change. Not that we could make a change, we will make a change, and we need to make that happen.
Connie, as the sole male on the panel, I will say it's the women power that are going to make the difference, and don't give up. Just drag us old guys along, and we can make a difference. But you guys have always show the bravery. You understand what it feels to be marginalized, and we need to speak up and speak out and all support each other. Thank you so much for doing this.
Really appreciate it. And I just want to thank all of our speakers, to everyone watching. We need every single one of you. There is such power in the masses. And you have to remember your voice matters, your vote matters, your presence in the community matters. And I'm going to reiterate it, your vote matters. So please get out there and vote responsibly. And we hope you'll join us next month as we continue on building stronger and more informed and more united Southwest Florida. And this has been Women's March Fort Myers, and we're your trusted voice and friend in the community. So see you next month.